Something has already shifted in the atmosphere around you, and if you can feel it in your chest right now, that is not your imagination. That is the first sign, and before this word is finished, I am going to name for you the exact reason heaven put this hour in front of your eyes tonight, and I am going to expose who thought they had defeated you and did not know that God was already writing his answer over their assumption. Do not scroll away from this. Do not treat this like another video that crossed your feed. There is a reason your hand paused on this exact title at this exact hour, and if you stay with me all the way through, you will understand why the number 1 hour is not a marketing hook. It is a spiritual measurement, and the countdown you feel in your bones is not anxiety, it is alignment. You are standing at a threshold, and something is about to cross over, with you or without you, and by the end of this word, you will know which one it is going to be, because there is a specific unveiling I am not going to withhold from you, and there is a name that has been hovering in the atmosphere around your life that the enemy hoped would stay unspoken, and tonight it is going to be said out loud. Listen to me carefully. I am not speaking to a crowd. I am speaking to a very specific chosen one who has been carrying a very specific weight for a very specific reason, and the person you have been thinking about all day, the situation you have been replaying in your mind, the memory that keeps looping when you try to sleep, none of that is random. Heaven is not confused about the timing of this word finding you. There is a divine synchronization happening right now, and if you have felt like you were losing, if you have felt like the outcome had already been decided against you, if you have felt like the voice that mocked you had the last word, I want you to breathe once and hear this plainly, because the report you have been living under is not the ruling that has just been handed down in heaven. Someone underestimated you. Someone laughed too soon. Someone told the story of your ending before God finished writing your middle. And they went to sleep last night, convinced that they had closed the chapter, convinced that you were finished, convinced that the pressure had done its work, and that the silence they placed on your life had sealed the outcome. But heaven does not answer according to the confidence of your accusers. Heaven answers according to the covenant over your life. And tonight, in this hour, God's answer is being released, and the one who thought they defeated you is about to discover that the God who let them think it was over is the same God who was hiding the real verdict inside your silence. Stay with me, because I have to show you what has been happening in the unseen while you thought nothing was moving. Before I go one sentence further, I need to tell you something about the shift. This is not a general word. This is not a soft encouragement. This is the type of message that only makes sense to the exact person it was sent to. So if your spirit already feels tender, if your eyes are already stinging, if something inside you has already sat up straight, that is confirmation number 1. Confirmation number 2 will come somewhere in the middle of this word, and confirmation number 3 will come near the closing prayer, and by the time all 3 land in your spirit, you will have no more doubt that this hour was arranged for you. But I do not want you to miss any of it, so before we go deeper, do this small thing. If this channel keeps finding you at the exact moment you needed a word, subscribe and turn on the bell, not because I am asking for a favor, but because heaven is speaking with continuity, and the next word is already being formed, and you should not have to search for confirmation the next time it comes. Let the bell be your quiet agreement that you do not want to miss what God is about to say next. Now let me go back into the atmosphere, because there is something I have to show you about the last 72 hours of your life. The pressure did not increase because you were being punished. The pressure increased because you were approaching a threshold, and every threshold has a gatekeeper, and every gatekeeper tests the weight of the one trying to cross. The reason your prayer went quieter, the reason your worship felt heavier, the reason your sleep was interrupted at unusual hours, the reason certain names you had almost forgotten resurfaced in your dreams. All of that was the threshold speaking, not your defeat announcing itself. What you thought was collapse was actually compression. What you thought was the end of your strength was actually the last inch before the door. And here is where I need you to hear me, because the enemy is very skilled at counterfeiting timing. He will make you believe you have run out of time, exactly when you have finally arrived at the appointed moment. He will place a clock in your ear that is not God's clock. He will whisper, "It is too late." Precisely at the hour heaven whispers, "It is now." The 1 hour I told you about is not the hour of your ending. It is the hour of the reversal. It is the hour where the story the enemy was telling about you is intercepted by the story God has been writing about you, in a room the enemy could not enter. Hear this carefully. Someone in your life, and you know exactly who I am talking about, someone in your life spoke a verdict over you that was not theirs to give. They did not have the authority, they did not have the office, they did not have the standing, but they spoke it anyway. And because you were tired, and because you loved them, and because you wanted peace, you allowed their words to sit on your shoulders like a coat you never asked for. And that coat has been heavier than anyone has known. It has affected your posture. It has affected your voice. It has affected the way you enter rooms. It has affected the way you pray. And tonight, in the next few minutes, I am going to help you take it off, because it was never yours to wear. But first, I need you to feel the accuracy of what I am about to describe, because if you do not feel the accuracy, you will not receive the release. The one who thought they defeated you was not a random opponent. They were close. That is what made it cut. They knew things about you they should have protected, and they used those things to sharpen the blade. They watched your patterns, and they timed their move for the season they thought would break you. And in the natural, it looked like they had calculated correctly. In the natural, it looked like the odds had bent in their favor. In the natural, it looked like your silence was confirmation of their victory. But listen closely. Silence in the mouth of the righteous is not surrender. Silence in the mouth of the chosen is a chamber where heaven prepares the answer that public noise could never carry. Do not respond to them yet. Do not send the message you have been drafting in your mind. Do not call the person you have been rehearsing that conversation with. Do not confront. Do not chase. Do not even correct the record just yet. And I know that feels impossible. I know every part of your flesh wants to be understood, wants to defend, wants to explain, wants to prove. But the moment you move ahead of God on this, you activate a different sequence. And I have to show you what that sequence is, because the enemy is counting on your reaction. Your reaction is the last ingredient he needs to complete the trap he set. If you react, you validate his frame. If you stay still one more day, his frame collapses under its own weight, because God has already scheduled the exposure, and the exposure does not need your participation. It only needs your restraint. There is a reason God has been asking you to be quiet, not passive, quiet. There is a difference. Passive is when you have no strength left. Quiet is when your strength has been redirected into a chamber where only heaven can see it. What has looked like withdrawal from your life has actually been consecration. What has looked like isolation has actually been insulation. God has been insulating the version of you that is about to be revealed, because if he had brought you out any earlier, the coat someone else spoke over you would have come with you into the new season. He is not just delivering you, he is delivering you clean. Now watch this. So I told you at the beginning, there was a name hovering in the atmosphere around your life that heaven wanted named tonight. I have not named it yet, and I am not going to name it the way you expect, because the name is not a person. The name is a spirit, and it operated through a person, but the person was never the real assignment. The real assignment was to make you believe that a mouth had more authority than a mantle. The spirit's name is dismissal. It is the spirit that convinces the chosen one that their gift, their calling, their voice, their timing, their weight, their significance can be dismissed by another human being's opinion. And that spirit came against you through a face you recognized. And it did its best work in the moments no one else witnessed. But tonight, dismissal loses its grip, because the God who does not dismiss what he has appointed has just walked into the room where your identity was being negotiated without your permission. Take a breath. I want you to feel that one settle, because that was the first revelation, and there are more coming, and I do not want you to move past it too quickly. If your spirit just said yes, if something in you just recognized that word, do this. Comment the words, "I receive it," under this video, not as a formality, but as an altar act. Let your comment be a witness that dismissal will not have another day of your life. And if you cannot find the words, just type the number of the hour. Just type 1, because in this 1 hour, in this one moment, something is settling for you that has been contested for far too long. Now stay with me, because there is a second layer I have to open. The person who thought they defeated you did not act alone. There was a network. And I am not talking about a dramatic conspiracy. I am talking about the small agreements that were made in conversations you were not present for. Agreements about your character, agreements about your future, agreements about your worth, agreements about what rooms you should and should not be in. Those agreements formed a canopy over your life, and every time you tried to rise, you felt an invisible ceiling, and you thought the ceiling was your limitation. It was not your limitation, it was their agreement. And tonight, the agreement is being unmade, because heaven is not bound by the treaties that men write about your future. You have felt this ceiling for a long time. You have felt it in interviews, where you should have been chosen and were not. You have felt it in conversations where your ideas were repeated by someone else and celebrated. You have felt it in rooms where your presence was tolerated but not honored. You have felt it in families where your voice was consistently the one that was interrupted. You have felt it in ministries where your gift was used, but your name was not spoken. You have felt it in friendships where your loyalty was assumed, but never reciprocated, and you began to wonder if there was something wrong with you. There is not. What was wrong was the canopy, and the canopy is being torn tonight. Hear this carefully. There is a reason God let you feel the full weight of the ceiling before He tore it, because if He had torn it earlier, you would have believed the elevation was about the room. Now, when He tears it, you will know the elevation is about Him. You will not confuse the doors with the God who opened them. You will not confuse the seats with the God who prepared them. You will not confuse the platforms with the God who purposed them. That is why the delay was necessary. That is why the pressure was necessary. That is why the silence was necessary. Heaven was purifying your interpretation of your own rise, so that when it comes, you would not build a monument to the wrong thing. And this is where I have to tell you something the enemy hoped you would miss. Your rise is not the reward. Your rise is the release. The reward has been happening the entire time, inside of you, in the character that formed while no one was watching, in the mercy that survived the mistreatment, in the tenderness that did not become bitterness, in the faith that did not become cynicism, in the prayer that did not become performance. Those are the rewards. The rise is simply the moment those rewards become visible to a world that has been asking the wrong questions about you. So do not tie your worth to the timing of the visibility. The visibility is heaven's confirmation of what you already are, not the creation of what you are becoming. Listen closely, because what I am about to say will offend a certain kind of thinking, but it will free the right ones. The person who thought they defeated you is not going to apologize. Not in the way you have imagined. Not with the language you have hoped for. Not on the timeline your heart has been begging for. And you have to be okay with that, because if you make their apology the condition of your peace, you have handed them a key they were never supposed to hold. God is not going to wait for their language to arrive before He releases your season. He is going to move you into the season, and their language, if it ever comes, will find you already seated somewhere they cannot access. That is the deeper vindication, not the sound of their sorry, the sight of your seat. But there is something I have not said yet, and it matters. Somewhere in the last 3 months, maybe less, maybe more, you had a moment where you almost gave up on a specific promise. You did not tell anyone. You did not write it down. You did not confess it out loud, but there was a night when you stared at the ceiling and you told God quietly that you did not know if you could keep believing for this particular thing, and you thought God did not hear the quiet version of your surrender. He heard it, and He did not correct you. He did not scold you. He did not withdraw. He sat with you in that room, and He waited, because He knew that what was going to be built on the other side of that moment could not have been built by a version of you that had not been that honest with him. That night was not weakness. That night was the beginning of the real foundation. And the reason I am telling you about that night is because the promise you almost released is the exact promise that is standing at the threshold with you right now. That is the crossing. That is the door. That is the 1 hour. The promise you thought you had lost is the one that is closest, and the enemy knew it. And that is why the pressure spiked in the weeks before this moment. He was trying to get you to release it right before it arrived, so that when it arrived, you would not be present enough to receive it. But I am here tonight to make sure you are present. I am here to shake your spirit awake. I am here to say to the sleeping part of you that has stopped expecting, wake up, because the thing you almost stopped believing for is walking toward you. If your eyes just filled with tears, if your throat just tightened, if you just felt heat move across your chest, that is not emotion, that is recognition. Do not wipe it away too fast. Let it do its work, and when it settles, hit the like button on this video. Not because a number matters, but because your like will be your quiet yes before God, that you are still in agreement with the promise. Let the like be your amen before the amen. And if this word has already found more than one place inside you, share it with one other person you know is standing at a threshold like this one. Because there are chosen ones who have not yet been reached, and the confirmation you just received is the same confirmation someone else is about to need before morning. Now let me open something that only makes sense at this point in the word. I told you earlier that heaven does not answer according to the confidence of your accusers. I want to expand that, because it is more than a phrase. There is a courtroom happening in the unseen, while your life is unfolding in the seen. And in that courtroom, there have been accusations laid against you that you did not know were being spoken. Not all of them came from people. Some of them came from principalities. Some of them came from patterns that predate your birth. Some of them came from bloodlines that carried words that were never repented of. And you have been carrying the weight of accusations you did not author. And you have been paying interest on debts you did not sign for. Tonight, in this hour, a gavel is coming down. And when the gavel comes down, the interest stops, the compounding stops, the generational pressure stops, the whispered verdicts stop. Because Jesus is the advocate who does not lose cases. And when he steps in front of your case, the accuser has no more standing, no more evidence, no more platform, no more voice. The room goes silent, and the ruling is released, and the ruling has your name on it, and the ruling reads restoration, and the ruling reads recompense, and the ruling reads reversal, and the ruling reads now. You may not feel the ruling in your circumstances yet. That is fine. Rulings in heaven precede manifestations on earth. The paperwork in the spirit is always finished before the movement in the natural. So do not measure the ruling by what your Monday morning looks like. Measure the ruling by the peace that just entered your chest. That peace is receipt. That peace is documentation. That peace is heaven's stamp on your file. Keep the receipt. When the accuser comes back, and he will come back, because that is what accusers do, you will produce the peace, and the peace will testify that the case is closed. Listen, this is where it deepens. There is a specific reason the enemy targeted this exact season of your life. He did not attack you when you were weak. He attacked you when you were on the verge of becoming dangerous. He does not waste ammunition on people who were never going to matter. The intensity of the war is the size of the assignment. And if the war around you has been unusually loud, unusually personal, unusually intimate, unusually well-timed, that is not because you are cursed. That is because you are commissioned. You do not attack a person because of who they were. You attack a person because of who they are about to be. And the enemy has been attacking who you are about to be. And he has been trying to make you settle the identity question with the wrong evidence. The evidence he wants you to use is the evidence of your circumstances. The evidence heaven wants you to use is the evidence of your assignment. Do not answer the identity question with your bank account. Do not answer the identity question with your relationship status. Do not answer the identity question with your job title. Do not answer the identity question with the way you were spoken to last week. Answer the identity question with the covenant. Answer it with the calling. Answer it with the character that is being formed. Answer it with the fingerprints of God that you can trace across your life if you look carefully. That is the correct evidence. And when you use the correct evidence, the wrong verdicts lose their power over your interior. And here is a mirror I want to hold up in front of you, because sometimes we understand our own story better when we see it in someone else's. Think about Joseph for a moment. Think about how many years he spent inside a story where the ones who thought they defeated him believed the case was closed. His brothers went home. His brothers moved on. His brothers built their lives around the assumption that the dreamer was buried. They did not know that the pit was a passage. They did not know that the prison was a preparation. They did not know that the silence around Joseph's name in their father's house was not the silence of death, but the silence of formation. And when the day came that they stood in front of him, the ones who thought they had defeated him discovered that the God who let them think it was over was the same God who had preserved the very one they tried to erase. That is your pattern. That is your mirror. You are not the exception. You are the continuation. The ones who thought they defeated you are moving through their lives with a certainty that will one day be interrupted. And when the interruption comes, it will not come with your voice raised. It will come with your seat filled. You will not have to say much. Your position will speak. Your peace will speak. Your provision will speak. Your posture will speak. And they will realize that the story they told themselves about you was not the story God was telling about you. And they will have to sit with that realization. And that realization is not your responsibility to manage. Now hear me, because I do not want you to hear this word and turn it into bitterness. There is a subtle temptation right now for you to take this message and use it as fuel for a fire that God did not light. Do not do that. Because the moment you do, something else activates that you have not been told about yet, and I want to show you what it is. The enemy has a backup plan, and the backup plan is this. If he cannot keep you defeated, he will try to keep you bitter. If he cannot make you settle in the pit, he will try to make you settle in the grudge. If he cannot stop the elevation, he will try to poison the elevation, so that when you arrive, you are physically in the new place, but spiritually still in the old one. Do not let him have that. The new place requires a new heart, and the new heart requires that you release the ones you have been rehearsing verdicts against. That does not mean you go back into the room where you were harmed. That does not mean you reopen the door where trust was broken. That does not mean you invite the wolf to the table because you have decided to be spiritual about it. Release is not access. Forgiveness is not amnesia. Boundaries are not bitterness. You can release someone from the courtroom of your heart and still not give them a key to your house. In fact, that is the whole point. You release them so that you are not still on trial with them. You release them so that the ruling in heaven can walk through your life unhindered by the residue of your unforgiveness. You release them because heaven is about to move quickly, and you cannot cross the threshold with your hands full of old files. Feel this settle, because this is one of the reasons the delay lasted as long as it did. God was not going to move you across the threshold with a suitcase full of grudges. He was going to teach you how to travel light, and every time you thought he was punishing you with more waiting, he was actually giving you more chances to leave more things behind. The waiting was the packing, the waiting was the sorting, the waiting was the sifting of what could come and what had to stay. And now that the sifting is nearly finished, the crossing is nearly here. I want you to notice something about your own life in the last few weeks. Certain conversations have felt shallower than they used to. Certain relationships have felt distant, even when the words were still friendly. Certain rooms have felt smaller. Certain routines have felt heavier. Certain patterns you used to enjoy have started to bore you. Certain content you used to consume has started to feel like noise. Certain voices you used to trust have started to sound off. That is not you becoming cold. That is you becoming calibrated. Your spirit is being tuned to a new frequency, and the old frequencies are being turned down so that when the new signal comes, you will hear it clearly the first time. Do not resist the tuning. Do not try to force your enjoyment of what God is quietly weaning you from. He is not stealing your joy, He is upgrading your ear. And this is where I want to pause and say something quietly to the tender part of you that is still wondering if any of this is really for you. Chosen one, this word is not a coincidence. This is not you overthinking. This is not you being emotional. This is not you wanting it too badly. You were led here. You were arranged here. You were positioned here. And the fact that so much of this is landing so specifically is not because I am generic enough to sound like everyone's story. It is because heaven is precise enough to speak to yours through this. Sit inside that for a moment. You are seen, not as a category, not as an audience, as a specific soul with a specific history and a specific assignment that heaven has not lost track of. I will not stack that reassurance on top of 10 more just to fill space, because reassurance without revelation becomes hollow. So let me give you a new layer. The next 30 days of your life are not going to look like the last 30 days of your life. And I am not saying that as a slogan. I am saying that as a shift you should prepare for spiritually. The pace is about to change. The people are about to change. The prompts are about to change. The prayers are about to change. Even your appetite is about to change. And if you are not spiritually alert, you will try to keep operating in the old rhythm during a new season. And that is where a lot of chosen ones stumble. They cross the threshold physically, but keep living emotionally in the pre-threshold world. Do not do that. And because I do not want to leave you with just a warning, let me tell you what to do instead. Begin, starting tonight, to speak the new season into existence with your mouth. Not loud, not performative. Small sentences, quiet declarations. In your car, in your kitchen, in your bathroom mirror. Say the sentences that agree with the ruling. Say them until your interior catches up with the paperwork in the courtroom of heaven. Say them until your body relaxes into the new posture. Say them until your face changes. And when your face changes, other things will start to change around you. Because atmospheres respond to alignment. And alignment starts with the mouth of the chosen one who has finally agreed with what heaven has already said. If you feel this word building inside you, I want you to do something before we go further. Take one hand and place it over your chest, right over the heart, and breathe in slowly. And on the exhale, quietly say, I receive. That is all. Not a speech, not a sermon, just I receive. Because sometimes the biggest breakthrough of the night is not the loudness of the declaration, it is the accuracy of the reception. Many chosen ones have been asking God to release things they were never in a receiving posture to catch. Tonight, be in position, be open, be soft where you need to be soft, and firm where you need to be firm. And now, let me widen the lens, because there is a bigger picture I have not fully opened yet. This 1 hour is not only about you, it is about a network of chosen ones who have been running parallel to you without knowing it. Right now, in different cities, on different continents, in different bedrooms and kitchens and hospital rooms, and cars parked in empty lots, other people are receiving pieces of this same word, and they are being aligned with you for what comes next. You are not going to walk into the next season alone. You have thought you were alone in this. You are not. Some of the people God is about to weave into your life have been in their own version of the pit, their own version of the prison, their own version of the ceiling, and when your paths cross, you will recognize each other quickly, because you will share the mark of ones who did not quit when it would have been reasonable to quit. That is a specific kind of person. That is a rare kind of person. And the reason you have felt lonely for so long is because you have been surrounded by people who were not carrying what you were carrying. The loneliness was not because you were unlovable. The loneliness was because you were mismatched. God was withholding the right ones because the wrong ones were still filling the seats they were never meant to hold. Now that the seats are being cleared, the right ones can be seated, and the seating is going to feel sudden, even though from heaven's perspective, it has been prepared for a very long time. I know that raises a question in you. When? When is this going to happen? And I have to be honest with you, the way a watchman is honest. because I would rather be accurate than impressive. I am not going to give you a date. What I am going to give you is a sign, and the sign is this. When you notice that a specific old ache has quietly stopped hurting the way it used to, that is the internal signal that the door is closed, because heaven does not open external doors that will re-injure old internal wounds. He heals the wound to the point where the door can no longer be used against you. So when you feel the ache going quiet, do not think you have simply gotten used to it. You have not. You have been healed to a level where the next door is safe to open. Stay with me, because the next layer is where it turns, and I do not want you to miss the pivot. There is a strategy the enemy uses at thresholds that most chosen ones are not warned about, and I am going to warn you now, because if you can see it, you can outmaneuver it. At every threshold, the enemy sends one final counterfeit, not the loud kind, the subtle kind. A counterfeit of the very thing you have been believing for. It looks close enough to make you second guess. It arrives at a plausible time. It comes through channels you would normally trust. It offers a version of the promise that is missing one crucial ingredient. And that missing ingredient is always the thing that would have made the promise fruitful. He does not steal the promise, he substitutes it. And chosen ones who do not know this are often the ones who cross the threshold, holding the counterfeit, and then wonder, years later, why the fruit did not come. Do not accept the counterfeit, and you will know it is a counterfeit because there will be a specific inner check, a small resistance in your spirit that will not go away, no matter how loudly your flesh cheers. Listen to the check. It is not fear, it is discernment. It is the same voice that has been guiding you through every quiet correction of the last several years. That voice is not going to stop working now. That voice is going to grow louder in the next season, because the assignments you are about to be trusted with will require sharper discernment than you have ever needed before. And here is where I want to insert something you might not expect from a word like this. Your discernment was sharpened by the very people who wounded you. That is not an accident. That is not wasted. That is not a footnote. That is core curriculum. The reason you can now sense manipulation from across a room is because you lived with manipulation up close for a long season. The reason you can now recognize false humility is because false humility was performed in front of you for years. The reason you can now smell the difference between real fatherhood and performance fatherhood is because you sat under performance and learned what the real thing was not. God did not send the wounding, but he did not waste the wounding either. He used it to build in you the very equipment that the next season requires. Do not let that flatten you. Let it lift you, because the very things you thought made you damaged are the very things that made you dangerous to the darkness that operates in the rooms you are about to enter. You are not walking in as a fragile survivor. You are walking in as a trained one. You are not carrying scars as decoration. You are carrying scars as credentials. The rooms you are about to enter have needed someone who could name the thing without flinching, and you can name the thing without flinching, because you have already survived it. Take a breath again. Let that settle. And if this word is finding you in a season where you have felt like your history disqualified you, let me correct that report. Your history is the receipt of your qualification, not the disqualification. The very things you have hidden are the very things heaven is about to honor, not celebrate publicly in a way that shames you. Honor, which is different. He is not going to broadcast your wounds. He is going to seat you in a way that quietly announces that the wounds were part of the training, not proof of the failure. Now, before we go further, let me speak to a very specific chosen one who is close to giving up on a person you have prayed for years. Someone you have interceded for in the middle of the night. Someone whose name you have written on a page and hidden inside your Bible. Someone whose voicemail you have stopped leaving. Someone whose salvation, or return, or freedom, or healing you have been standing for, even when the standing felt useless. I want to tell you plainly, do not release that name yet. The 1 hour is not only about the reversal that is coming to your own life, it is also about a specific answer that is being released for a specific name you have been carrying. And that answer is going to come in a way that will surprise you, because it is not going to look like the pathway you predicted. But when it comes, you will know instantly that it was the fruit of your hidden intercession, and you will weep quietly, because you will realize you almost stopped 1 week too soon. That is why I keep saying, stay with me, because there are pieces of this word that are landing in different rooms of your interior all at once. Some of you needed the word about the accuser. Some of you needed the word about the accuser. Some of you needed the word about the accuser, the name you have been carrying in prayer. Some of you needed the word about the counterfeit, and some of you needed the word, I am about to open now, which is about a very specific season of your life that you have not fully forgiven yourself for. And I am going to speak to that gently, because it is a tender place, and it deserves tenderness. There is a version of you that made a decision you would not make now. You know the one. You have replayed it. You have judged it. You have wondered how you could have been that naive, that quick, that trusting, that reactive, that silent, that loud, whatever the shape of it was. And there is a shame that has quietly attached itself to that memory. And every time you begin to rise into a new season, that memory whispers something like, who do you think you are? And that whisper has been more effective at stopping you than any external accuser, because it wears your own voice. Tonight, I want to detach that whisper from your own voice, because it was never yours. It was a lodger, and it has overstayed its welcome. Hear this carefully. The version of you that made that decision was doing the best they could with the light they had at the time. You did not have the eyes you have now. You did not have the discernment you have now. You did not have the language you have now. You did not have the community you have now. You did not have the healing you have now. Judging that version of you with the eyes you have today is not fair, and it is not accurate. God does not judge that version of you with the eyes you have today either. He judged that version of you with mercy, and he assigned that version of you a lesson, and the lesson has been learned, and the case is closed. Stop reopening a case that heaven has already sealed. That is the exhale. Feel it. And if you have not yet, in this moment, let a small sentence come out of your mouth. Something like, I forgive that version of me. Just that. Because when you forgive that version of you, the whisper loses the microphone. And when the whisper loses the microphone, the current version of you can finally take her seat, take his seat, without hearing the ghost of an older self undermining every step. If any of this has landed in a place words could not usually reach, I need you to do one more small thing before we move deeper. Subscribe to this channel, and not for the numbers. Subscribe because heaven is speaking with continuity, not in fragments, and the next word that comes through here may hold the piece you did not know you were missing. This channel is for the ones carrying hidden assignments, spiritual pressure, and divine timing seasons. And if that describes you, then this is not a place you visit. It is a place you belong. Turn the bell on, so the confirmations do not have to chase you. Let it be simple. Let it be quiet. Let it be a small act of alignment with a stream that God seems to be using to reach you again and again. Now let me move us toward the crossing, because there is more atmosphere I have to describe. When you cross this threshold, you will not cross it alone, but you will cross it changed. The name you carried into the wilderness is not the name you will carry out. And I do not mean your legal name. I mean your inner name. The label your soul has answered to. For too long, you have answered to labels that were placed on you by people who were not qualified to name you. Rejected, too much, not enough, late, difficult, overreacting, naive, broken, bitter, unstable. Whatever the label was, it was not your true name. And on the other side of this crossing, you will begin to answer only to the name heaven has been calling you the whole time. And when someone tries to use the old label, it will not fit anymore, and you will not have to argue about it. It will simply slide off, because you are no longer the surface it can stick to. The new name has been forming inside you through the exact pain you thought was destroying you. That is why the enemy fought it so hard. He was not just trying to hurt you, he was trying to prevent the naming, because once the naming happens, the influence he had over you through the old labels evaporates, and he cannot relabel what heaven has renamed. He can only shout the old name from a distance, and the further you walk into the new season, the less you will hear him. Listen closely, because this is one of the parts many chosen ones overlook. In the first weeks after a threshold crossing, there is often a strange quiet. Not the oppressive quiet of the wilderness, a different quiet, the quiet of a room that has just been rearranged and is settling into its new configuration. Do not misinterpret that quiet. Do not fill it with noise. Do not rush to prove that something is happening. Sit in the new room. Learn the new acoustics. Notice which prayers echo differently now. Notice which songs sound heavier now. Notice which scriptures feel more three-dimensional now. That is the settling of your interior into the new architecture God has built. And there is one more thing about the crossing that I want to make sure you carry with you. When you cross, some people you loved will not cross with you. That is a hard sentence, and I said it plainly on purpose, because you have felt it coming for a while, and no one has confirmed it for you. Not everyone who was assigned to your wilderness is assigned to your promised land. Some were seasonal. Some were even necessary. But their assignment ends at the border, and when they do not cross, it is not because you failed them, and it is not because they hate you. It is because the covering shifts, and the covering that fit both of you in the wilderness will not fit both of you in the new season. Bless them. Do not drag them. Do not perform grief you do not feel. Do not manufacture guilt you do not owe. Bless them and cross. That was one of the hardest things I could tell you tonight, and I did not soften it, because softening it would have delayed your obedience. If you needed to hear it plainly, that was your confirmation. And in the comments below, if this word is doing what I sense it is doing, write one short sentence about what you are trusting God for on the other side of this crossing. Do not write a paragraph. Write a sentence. Because when heaven sees the church of chosen ones agreeing in short sentences across a comment section, something in the atmosphere shifts, and every person who reads those sentences after you will be strengthened by your agreement, and their strengthening will strengthen you back. That is how the body works. That is how confirmation multiplies. Now let me tighten the frame, because we are approaching the moment of sealing. But before we get there, I have to open 2 more layers. Not to pad this out, to finish the work. Because if I close before these are opened, you will feel it later as unfinished business in your spirit. And I do not want you leaving this word with anything unfinished. The first layer is this. There has been a delay in the manifestation of a specific answer to prayer, and you have interpreted the delay as God's silence. It was not silence, it was surgery. There was something in your desire that was mixed, not evil, mixed. And God, in His mercy, did not answer the prayer as it was originally offered, because the answer would have brought more damage than the delay ever did. He is not withholding. He is refining the ask itself, so that when the answer comes, it comes to a version of you that can steward it without being destroyed by it. Answered prayers destroy more chosen ones than unanswered ones, because unanswered prayers teach dependence, and answered prayers, if given too early, teach independence. And God is more interested in your long-term dependence than in your short-term relief. He knows what He is doing. Trust the mixing being burned off. Trust the refining fire on your desire itself. What comes out will be pure and stewardable and lasting. The second layer is this. Someone is going to come back into your life who left in a way that felt final. And I am not going to promise that in every case it will be reconciliation. In some cases, it will be reconciliation. In other cases, it will be closure. In other cases, it will be recognition. But in every case, it will be a moment where the story you told yourself about how it ended will be edited by a piece of information you did not have. And when that moment happens, you will understand something you have been asking God to explain for a very long time. Do not force that moment. Do not orchestrate it. Do not chase it. Let it come the way heaven has scheduled it. When it comes, receive it, whatever shape it takes. Not everything that returns is a return of the relationship. Some things return only to give you a truer version of the story, so that your interior can finally rest. And now, because those two layers have been placed, I can begin to move toward the ceiling. But before I pray this over you, one more thing has to be settled. There is a specific weight on your shoulders right now, and I want you to name it internally. You do not have to say it out loud. Just name it in your interior, the name of the weight. Is it disappointment? Is it fatigue? Is it fear? Is it grief? Is it confusion? Is it a specific person's face? Is it a specific memory? Is it a specific unanswered question? Name it, because the naming is what allows the release. Unnamed weights do not lift. Named weights do. Heaven does not release generic burdens. Heaven releases named ones. Name it now and hold it in your inner sight, because when I begin to pray, I want that specific thing to be the first thing that lifts. And as you hold it there, receive one more truth before the prayer begins. You are not too late. And I said I would only use these reassurances when they were earned, and they have been earned now. You are not too late, not for the promise, not for the assignment, not for the door, not for the healing, not for the relationship, not for the calling. The 1 hour is not the last hour of your opportunity. It is the first hour of your alignment, and the God who arranged the timing did not make a mistake about how long it took to get here. He was building something inside you that could not be rushed, and now that it is built, He is not going to let it sit unused. What was formed will be deployed. What was hidden will be revealed. What was silent will speak. What was waiting will move. Before I pray, let me tell you what I want you to do in the next 24 hours. Not because you owe me anything, but because the word needs a landing strip in your life. When you finish this video, do not scroll immediately into noise. Give this word a small amount of quiet. 10 minutes, 15. Sit with it. Let your interior integrate. Then, at some point tomorrow, write down one sentence that captures what you received tonight. Just one. Not a journal entry, a sentence. And put that sentence somewhere you will see it for the next week. On your mirror, on your dashboard, on your phone lock screen, on the inside of a notebook you carry. Because the sentence will keep working on you long after this video ends, and it will function as an anchor when the next wave of doubt comes, and the next wave will come, because that is how doubt operates. But the sentence will be there, and the sentence will remind your interior of what your spirit already agreed to. And if you know a specific person who is at their own threshold right now, if a specific face just came to mind while I was speaking, send them this video before you go to sleep. Not with a long message, just send it. Let it be a small act of ministry through your hands. That person is not a coincidence in your mind either. They came to mind because you were being deputized to carry a small piece of this confirmation to them. Do not overthink it. Do not draft a paragraph. Send it, and let heaven do the rest. And before I pray this over you, one more thing must be settled. Because I promised you at the beginning of this word that there were confirmations coming in threes, and I want to make sure the third one lands cleanly before the ceiling begins. So stay with me a little deeper, because we are not padding this out. We are opening rooms in your spirit that have been locked for a long time, and each room has a different key, and I am not going to leave the house until every key has been used. The third confirmation is this. Somewhere in the last 7 days, you had a dream, or a fragment of a dream, that you dismissed as random. Maybe it was water, maybe it was a house you did not recognize, maybe it was a road with an unfamiliar bend in it, maybe it was a person from your past who looked at you with an expression they never actually gave you in real life. Maybe it was a color that stayed with you after you woke up. Maybe it was just a feeling, without images at all, a feeling of being called from a distance by a voice that was familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. You woke up, you got on with your day, you filed it away, and by lunchtime you had forgotten most of it. But your spirit did not forget. Your spirit has been carrying that fragment as a receipt, and heaven is asking you tonight to open the receipt and read it in the light of this word. Because here is what most chosen ones do not know. Dreams at thresholds are not decorative, they are instructional. Heaven often communicates threshold instructions through symbols rather than sentences, because symbols bypass the analytical mind that would argue with a direct sentence. The symbol lodges in the interior, and it waits for the moment when the interpretation arrives. Tonight is the moment when the interpretation arrives. So take a second, quietly, before the prayer, and let the fragment resurface. Do not force it, just soften. It will come. And when it comes, ask the Holy Spirit one simple question. What were you showing me? Not for entertainment, not for curiosity, for instruction. He will answer you, maybe not in a full sentence, but in a small knowing. And that knowing will match up with something I am about to say next. Because the reason I know about the dream fragment is not because I have a magical gift over you. It is because heaven has been doing this in patterns across many chosen ones in this exact hour, and the patterns are unmistakable. The dream is one of them. The sudden emotional wave that hit you in a public place last week is another. The unexplainable exhaustion that showed up on a day when nothing in the natural should have made you that tired is another. The single sentence someone said in passing that you cannot stop replaying is another. All of these are markers, and when a chosen one begins to notice the markers stacking, they realize they are not random points scattered across a life. They are the coordinates of a path. You are on a path. That is the fourth revelation of the night, if you have been counting. You are on a path, not a treadmill. Treadmills exhaust without arriving. Paths exhaust and arrive. The reason the fatigue has felt different in the last several weeks is because it is arrival fatigue, not treadmill fatigue. There is a difference in the body between the two. Treadmill fatigue is hopeless. Arrival fatigue is heavy but hopeful. If you have not been able to name why you are tired, but you also have a strange, quiet undertone of expectation running underneath the tiredness, that mixture is your evidence. You are close. Listen carefully, because I want to give you something you can use tomorrow. When you wake up in the morning, before you look at your phone, before you check the world, before you enter anyone else's atmosphere, sit up in your bed for 90 seconds and say the following in whatever words feel natural to you. Not memorized, not scripted. Simply, thank you for the threshold. Thank you for the crossing. I agree with what you are doing. I say yes to what you are naming. Do not skip that morning, because the enemy will try to hijack your first thoughts on the day after a word like this, and if he can get to your first thoughts, he can bend the whole day. 90 seconds of alignment in the morning is worth 9 hours of correction later. And here is a fifth revelation that I want to place in front of you, because you may have been missing it in the middle of your own life. Someone has been watching you from a distance, and their opinion of you has been quietly changing, and you are unaware. You assume that the last impression you left is the impression that has hardened. It has not. Time has been softening something in them. Something you said in passing months ago, something you did that they never acknowledged in the moment, something they overheard about you from a third party, something they observed about how you handled a situation that they thought would have destroyed a lesser person. All of that has been working on them without your knowledge. And in the not too distant future, they are going to make a move toward you that will not fit their pattern, and you will not know that this word was the first announcement of it, but I am telling you now, so that when it happens, you will not miss the significance. Do not be so guarded that you cannot receive that move when it comes. Yes, discern. Yes, keep the boundaries. Yes, do not open doors that heaven has told you to keep closed, but do not confuse guarding with hardening. There is a version of self-protection that becomes its own prison, and I do not want the wounds of the last season to make you unavailable to the reconciliations that the next season is bringing. Stay open where God has told you to stay open. Stay closed where God has told you to stay closed, and trust that you will know the difference, because the discernment we have already talked about is going to keep working in real time, not just in retrospect. Now, let me deepen another layer, because I sense there is a chosen one listening who has been asking God about their voice. Your voice has been a subject of conversation in heaven, not in the way you have been discussing it in your own head, where you critique it, where you second-guess it, where you compare it, where you wonder if it is too much, where you wonder if it is not enough. In heaven, your voice has been a subject of preparation. There is a specific frequency your voice carries that heaven has been intentionally shaping through everything you have survived. The tremble in your voice when you talk about certain topics is not weakness, it is calibration. The tremble means the frequency is aligned with the weight. Voices that talk about heavy things without any tremble at all are often carrying less weight than they claim. Yours carries weight. And your voice is about to be used in a room you have not yet imagined. Not necessarily a stage, not necessarily a public platform. Sometimes, the most consequential rooms are the smallest ones. A hospital room, a funeral parlor, a kitchen table, a back seat of a car on a long drive, a hallway conversation at work, a prayer over a person who did not know they needed prayer until you began. Your voice is being sharpened for those moments, and when those moments come, the years of feeling ignored will not be a scar, they will be a resource. Because the people you will minister to will need someone who understands what being ignored feels like, and they will feel safer with you than they would have with someone who never went through it. Do not resent the years the voice was quieted. They were the training years, and now the training years are ending, and the deployment years are beginning. Deployment is not always dramatic. Sometimes deployment looks like a single sentence said at the right moment to the right person, and the sentence changes the trajectory of their next 20 years, and no one else in the room even knows that a deployment just happened. Heaven knows. And heaven is the audience that matters. Hear this carefully. There is a specific fear you have been carrying about your voice, and I want to name it plainly so we can put it down. You have been afraid that when you finally speak, you will not be believed, that the years of being talked over will have trained the room to keep talking over you, that the pattern will be too strong to break. I want to tell you what heaven is arranging. The next time you speak into a room where you have historically been ignored, something in the room will shift, and the people in the room will not be able to name what shifted, but they will feel it, and they will listen differently. Not because you tried harder, not because you spoke louder, because the covering over you changed, and the covering changes the acoustics of the room. That is not a technique, that is a mercy. Let me open one more layer, because we are still in the pre-prayer expansion, and I do not want to close before this piece lands. There has been an assumption running quietly in your interior that you must earn your way into what God has already given you, that you have to prove your worthiness one more time before the promise can be released. I want to correct that assumption tonight, because it is one of the most sophisticated traps the enemy sets around chosen ones. He does not tell you the promise is not for you. That would be too obvious. He tells you the promise is for you, but only after you have paid more. And you have been paying and paying and paying, and the receipt never seems to be enough. Hear me. The receipt was signed by Jesus. There is no additional payment being required. What has felt like a demand for more payment has actually been a refining of your reception, not an increase of your debt. God is not raising the price of the promise. He is expanding the container that will hold it. Those are two entirely different processes. If you interpret the container expansion as a price raise, you will grow bitter and exhausted. If you interpret it correctly, you will grow steady and grateful. Reinterpret the last several years through that lens tonight. What looked like the price going up was actually you being enlarged. And I want to give you a very specific image, because sometimes an image will land in a place that a sentence cannot. Imagine a river that has been running toward a lake for a long time, but the lake is small. The lake is not ready to receive the volume of the river. If the river arrived at the lake too soon, the water would overflow and drain into places that were not meant to receive it, and the river's power would be lost in the runoff. So the lake has been quietly being dug deeper and wider and stronger, and the walls of the lake have been reinforced, and the ground under the lake has been tested, and the river has been slowed, not stopped, not diverted, only slowed, so that when it finally arrives at the lake can hold it. You are the lake. The last several years have been the digging, and the river is close. Do not curse the digging. Do not resent the reinforcement. Do not accuse the ground testing of being punishment. Every wound that hit the same spot twice was not the enemy repeating himself. It was heaven making sure the wall could hold pressure from that direction. And it can. The wall can hold. You have already survived at that spot, more times than the enemy expected you to survive. He does not know how to breach that spot anymore. And the areas that still feel fragile, heaven is finishing those in this final stretch before the river arrives. Now let me pivot, because there is a very specific instruction I want to give you that has to do with your money. I know that sentence is going to catch some chosen ones off guard, and I said I would not do fundraising in this word, and I am not going to. This is not about giving. This is about receiving. Your money has been under a spirit of leak, and a leak is different from lack. Lack means there is not enough coming in. Leak means enough was coming in, but it kept slipping out through cracks that could not be traced. If you have looked at your accounts and could not explain where it went, you were not being careless. You were being drained. And the draining has been part of the assignment against you, because the enemy knows that a chosen one with financial peace is a dangerous chosen one, and a chosen one with financial anxiety is more easily managed. Tonight, in this hour, the leak is being sealed. I am not going to promise you a specific dollar amount or a specific timeline. What I am going to say is that the invisible cracks in your financial life are being closed, one by one, so that whatever comes in from this point forward has a container that can actually hold it. And when the container holds, the accumulation becomes possible, and the accumulation is what funds the assignment, and the assignment is what heaven has been building toward. Do not fixate on the number, fixate on the container. When the container is right, the number will come. There is a very specific chosen one listening who has been embarrassed about their finances in front of God, as if he did not already know. He knows, and he has not been embarrassed of you. He has been building strategy, and the strategy has required that you not be given more resource than you had wisdom to steward, because a resource without wisdom is a trap, and he has been more merciful in what he has withheld than you have understood. Now that the wisdom has been built, the resource can come, and it will come through channels you have not fully prepared for. So pay attention in the next several weeks to conversations that veer unexpectedly toward opportunity, invitations that seem out of proportion to the relationship, and doors that open in areas you were not actively knocking on. Those are not accidents. Those are the beginning of the flow. Now let me pause and remind you why I keep saying stay with me. It is not because I am afraid of losing your attention. It is because each of these revelations opens a chamber, and if you leave before all the chambers are opened, you leave with less than heaven prepared for you. Tonight is one of the nights when the yield is disproportionate to the effort. You are not doing much. You are listening, but the return on this listening is going to be higher than you can measure right now. So stay. There is still more. And if you are still with me, do this. Comment one word below. Just one. The word can be listening, or hear, or receiving, or yes, or the number of the hour, if you have been counting with me. Let your comment be the small mark that says you did not leave when it got long, because heaven marks the ones who stay long, and the ones who stay long often carry the assignments that require the most endurance. Your comment is not for me. It is your own record of your own posture on the night when things shifted. Now let me open something about your body, because I know some of this word has been landing in places that are not just spiritual. Some of it has been landing in your shoulders, your neck, your jaw, your lower back. Chosen ones carry burdens in their bodies more than they realize. And the specific weight I told you to name earlier is not only sitting in your spirit, it has taken up residence in your muscles. That is why you have been tired, in a way that sleep does not fix. That is why certain areas of your body ache without any medical explanation. That is why your jaw is sometimes tight before you even open your eyes in the morning. The soul and the body are not two separate territories. What lives in one shows up in the other. As this word continues to work in you tonight, expect a physical shift, not a miracle claim, a shift. a relaxation you did not consciously initiate, a softening in your shoulders, a deeper breath than you have taken in days. A moment where you notice you have been holding your face in a certain expression for a long time, and it releases. That is real. That is documented. That is heaven working through the layers. Do not dismiss it as ordinary. Ordinary would not choose this hour to arrive, and in the coming days, be gentle with your body. Do not treat it like the enemy of your spirit. It has been carrying more than it was designed to carry, and it is not the villain of your story. It is the companion. Sleep when you can, drink water, move slowly when your spirit tells you to move slowly, and quickly when your spirit tells you to move quickly. There is a rhythm being restored between your body and your interior, and the rhythm needs your cooperation to settle. Do not overthink it, just listen to it. There is another layer I need to open now, and this one is about a very specific chosen one who has been feeling like a fraud. You know exactly who you are. You have been operating in a gift that people affirm, but internally, you have been wondering when you will be exposed as not enough. That imposter voice has been running underneath your smile for months, maybe years. I want to speak to that directly, because it is one of the most common weapons used against genuinely called chosen ones. If you were actually a fraud, you would not be worried about being one. Frauds do not worry about being frauds. They perform, they collect, they move on. The very fact that you have been anxious about your integrity is evidence of your integrity. That is not a paradox. That is a diagnostic. The voice that has told you that you are about to be found out is not the voice of the Holy Spirit convicting you. It is the voice of the accuser trying to shrink you before your assignment can be fully entered. Heaven is not planning to expose you. Heaven is planning to establish you. And the difference between exposure and establishment is the difference between a courtroom that ends in shame and a courtroom that ends in seating. You are being seated, not exposed. The imposter voice loses its microphone tonight, and in the coming weeks, when it tries to come back, remind it of what happened in this hour. It does not get to speak here anymore. Now, let me widen once more, because there is a specific chosen one who has been running a business, or trying to, and it has felt like every 3 steps forward come with 2 steps back. I want to name what has been happening in the unseen around your work. There has been a spiritual crosswind on your business that you have not been able to name. It was not the market. It was not your competence. It was not your product. It was a spiritual crosswind that showed up right at the moment things were about to catch. Every time momentum began to build, something happened. A key client backed out for reasons that did not make sense. A payment got delayed for reasons that never got fully explained. A relationship that should have been simple became inexplicably complicated. A door that opened, closed halfway through. That crosswind is being lifted. I am not promising you overnight scale. What I am telling you is that the invisible resistance around what you are building is being removed, and the results of that removal will not be dramatic all at once, but they will be steady, and steady is what compounds. In 6 months, if you keep faithful to the assignment, you will look back at the next 4 weeks and identify them as the weeks the crosswind lifted, even though at the time it will feel ordinary. Faithfulness in the ordinary weeks is where the compounding happens. Do not despise those weeks. And for the chosen one, who is not building a business, but building a family, the same principle is at work. There has been a crosswind on your home, a subtle tension that never fully resolved, a pattern of small conflicts that felt too frequent to be random, a cloud that would settle after every attempt at peace and then return 2 days later. That crosswind is being lifted too, not because you finally figured out the right technique, but because the atmosphere over the household is being repositioned. And when the atmosphere shifts, the conversations that used to spiral will de-escalate faster. The nights that used to be heavy will begin to lighten. The children, if there are children, will begin to settle in ways that surprise you. Do not over-explain it when it happens. Just receive it, and be grateful. Gratitude is what keeps the lift from being taken for granted, and gratitude is what invites more of the same. Listen closely, because what comes next is the part the enemy hoped you would miss. There is a specific enemy tactic that surfaces in the 2 to 3 weeks after a threshold crossing, and I want to warn you now, so that when it comes, you will recognize it and neutralize it. The tactic is nostalgia for the old season, not longing. Nostalgia, a sudden, sentimental sweetness about the very pain you just left. He will replay in your memory only the pleasant fragments of the old season and edit out the pressure that made you cry out to God in the first place. And in a weak moment, you may find yourself wondering if you should reach back into what you already released. Do not. The nostalgia is not from heaven. It is from the enemy trying to reverse the crossing. Every threshold has to be defended for a season after it has been crossed, and the defense is not aggressive. It is disciplined. You just do not go back. You just keep moving, and the nostalgia will lose its grip within a few weeks. And here is a related warning. There will be a single person from the old season who will reach out to you in the next several weeks in a way that will surprise you. Their message will feel warm. It will feel like closure. It will feel like reconciliation might be on the table. You will feel the pull to answer quickly. Do not answer quickly. Take it to prayer. Take it to counsel. If you have real counsel in your life, test the fruit of your interior when you consider the message. Is your interior peaceful when you imagine responding, or is it activated in a way that mimics excitement, but is actually anxiety wearing a costume? That difference matters. Sometimes the message is genuine, and heaven will lead you to respond in a measured way. Sometimes the message is a bait to reopen a door that was rightly closed. Do not react. Discern. Now let me offer a scriptural anchor to hold this section down, because we have been in the atmosphere for a while, and I want to ground you again. Think of Nehemiah on the wall. He was building something that had been in ruins, and the resistance came in waves. First mockery, then intimidation, then invitations to come down for a meeting that was actually a trap. And Nehemiah's response was one of the strongest sentences in the whole book. I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. That is your posture right now. You are doing a great work, and you cannot come down for the invitations that would interrupt the wall. The wall is more important than the meeting. The assignment is more important than the explanation. You do not owe every invitation an appearance. You owe the assignment, the completion. And notice, Nehemiah did not answer his critics with a long defense. He answered with a sentence. Because critics do not respond to length. Critics respond to certainty. And your certainty about your assignment is going to have to be higher in this next season than it has ever been. You will not have time for long defenses. A sentence will be enough, and the ones who are meant to receive the sentence will settle, and the ones who are not meant to receive the sentence will continue to argue, and their arguments will not be your responsibility to answer. Let me lean into another biblical anchor, because there is a chosen one listening who needs the story of Elijah tonight. Not the fire on the mountain, the juniper tree. After the most powerful public moment of his life, Elijah collapsed under a tree and asked God to take his life, and God did not rebuke him. God fed him, twice, and then let him sleep, and then walked him gently over a long journey to a cave, and in the cave, he asked him a question that was not a rebuke. What are you doing here? And Elijah told the truth, even though the truth was full of self-pity, and God did not correct the self-pity right away. He first showed Elijah that he was not in the wind, or the earthquake, or the fire, but in the still small voice. And then, after Elijah heard the still small voice, God gave him instructions, and one of those instructions was to anoint the person who would eventually take his mantle. There is something here for you. If you have collapsed under your own juniper tree in the last several months, God is not angry with you. He is feeding you, twice. Then he is walking with you to a cave. In the cave, he is going to ask you what you are doing there, and you should tell him the whole truth, even the parts that sound like self-pity, because he does not need you to edit yourself before you come to him. And then he will show you the still small voice, and then he will give you your next assignment. And part of the next assignment will be to raise someone else, someone whose face may already be forming in your mind. because chosen ones on the other side of collapse very often become anointers of the next generation, and that is not a demotion, that is a promotion. Do not despise the anointing role. It looks quieter than the mountain role. It is not. Mountains without successors die. Anointers make sure the fire continues past their own visible season. And if you are being called into an anointing season rather than a mountain season, receive it with honor. It is a specific kind of chosenness that only mature ones are trusted with. Now let me offer something for the single chosen ones listening. Not because being single is more spiritual or less spiritual, but because there are specific chosen ones who have been carrying a quiet ache about companionship that has been dismissed by the people around them. You have been told to focus on the Lord, and that is true, but the truth has often been weaponized against your longing. You have been made to feel that having a longing means you are not fully spiritual. Let me correct that. The longing is not the enemy of your walk. The longing is the evidence of a design. God did not put a longing in you that He intends to leave permanently unmet, and He did not create in you a capacity that has no legitimate expression. But the delay in the meeting of that longing has not been a punishment. It has been a positioning. The person you are being prepared for is being prepared, and the two of you have been running on parallel tracks that have not yet intersected because certain healings had to happen on both sides before the intersection could be safe. The reason some of your previous connections collapsed was not because you were unworthy. It was because heaven refused to let you meet the right one while you were still in a state that would have been damaged by the meeting. Now that you are closer to the state that can steward the meeting is closer. Do not despise the season of preparation, and do not weaponize the season of preparation against yourself either, by concluding that you must be uniquely defective to still be in it. You are not defective. You are in the queue that God curated specifically for the assignment you carry. Chosen ones with heavy assignments are not paired quickly. They are paired carefully, and carefully takes longer than casually, and carefully is worth the wait. For the chosen ones already in a covenant relationship, I speak this. The last season put pressure on your bond that felt sometimes like it might crack the whole thing. It did not. What did not crack in the pressure is not going to crack in the promotion. And the same crosswind that was on your finances and your household was on your union. That crosswind is lifting. Expect a softening between you and the one you are covenanted with. Expect a return of specific conversations you thought had died. Expect an unexpected tenderness in a moment neither of you scheduled. Do not miss it when it comes, because you are still braced for the old atmosphere. Let your body relax. The war between you is being pulled off, and what was underneath is coming back. Listen closely, because this is one of the parts many chosen ones overlook. Sometimes the person you were fighting was not actually the person. It was a spirit operating through them. And when the spirit is lifted, the person you married, the person you covenanted with, comes back into visibility. The last several years, you have been in the ring with a spirit, and mistaking the ring for the marriage. Now that the spirit is being escorted out of the ring, you will remember what the person underneath actually looked like, and you will be surprised by how much of what you loved is still there. It has not left, it was covered. Now, let me open a section about your children, if you have any. If you do not, this next portion still applies to any young person you have been spiritually responsible for, whether formally or informally. Their heavens are also being adjusted tonight. There is a specific attack that has been running against your children or your spiritual sons and daughters that has manifested as distraction, as anxiety, as behavioral inconsistency, as sudden mood shifts, as a strange resistance to spiritual things they used to be open to. That attack is not just a phase. It has been part of the same campaign against your household, because the enemy has always known that if he can compromise the next generation coming through you, he can slow the inheritance of the calling. Tonight, over your children and your spiritual sons and daughters, I release a covering. Do not say Amen too quickly. Let it settle first. In the coming weeks, look for signs, a conversation that opens where you had not been able to reach them, a moment of unexpected softness, a question they ask you that they have not asked in years, a dream they tell you about at breakfast, a book they suddenly want to read, a friend they begin to distance themselves from. Those are markers. Do not force them. Do not point them out to your children. Just witness them and thank God quietly, because forced awareness will make them self-conscious, and the work heaven is doing in them needs to happen without them staring at it. And for the chosen ones who have grieved a child, whether through miscarriage or loss or estrangement or a wound that never fully healed between you, I want to speak this gently. Heaven has not forgotten that grief, and heaven is not asking you to be over it before he can move. He is asking you to bring it, exactly as it is, into the next season with you. The grief is not disqualifying you. It is not embarrassing. It is not something you have to hide from him to be worthy of the crossing. Bring it. Carry it across the threshold. On the other side, he will show you what to do with it, and how to steward it, and what fruit it will produce that you have not yet been able to see. Grief in the hands of God is a seed, not a stone. Now let me pivot, because there is a very specific chosen one who has been asking God about a location. Not a metaphorical location, an actual place, a city, a neighborhood, a house, a country. You have been sensing that where you currently are is not where you are meant to stay, and you have been wrestling with whether the sense is from him or from restlessness. I want to tell you plainly, there is a location assignment being adjusted in this hour, and for some of you, movement is coming. Not necessarily immediately, but the beginning of the movement is now. Do not rent for another year without asking him. Do not sign the extension without praying. Do not assume that where you have been is where you will continue to be. The map is being redrawn. For others of you, the location assignment is going to stay exactly where you are, but the way you occupy that location is going to change. You will not be moving houses. You will be moving hearts. You will not be crossing a state line. You will be crossing an inner threshold that will let the location around you become a base of assignment rather than a holding zone. Some of you will bloom where you are planted. Some of you will be transplanted, and you will know which one is your portion by the peace or unrest you feel when you sit in your current home and ask, is this the base or is this the pause? Ask that question. He will answer. I want to give you one more revelation before we begin to move toward the sealing prayer, because the layers of this word are meant to interlock, and this last one binds several of the others together. There is a version of your prayer life that is about to change. You have prayed a certain way for years, and it has worked, and it has kept you, and it has carried you. But there is a next level of prayer that heaven is about to open to you, and it will feel unfamiliar at first. It will be shorter, it will be quieter, it will contain more silence between the words. It will feel less like petition and more like presence. And you may worry, at first, that you are losing your prayer life. You are not. You are gaining a deeper one. The prayer of the next season is a prayer that assumes the covenant more than it argues for it. It stops pleading for what has already been declared. It rests inside the declaration and asks only for the pace and posture of receiving. That prayer will feel less like work and more like sitting, and you will feel guilty at first, because you were trained that prayer is only real if it is loud, or long, or in a certain form. That was training wheel prayer. It served its purpose. Now you are being trusted with something else. Do not miss it, because it looks less impressive on the outside. On the inside, it is more powerful, because it is closer to the source. If any of this has landed, and I sense that many of these layers have, do one more thing before we approach the prayer. If this word has confirmed you in ways you did not expect, hit the like button as your quiet act of agreement with what heaven is doing tonight. Do not do it because I asked. Do it because your spirit is agreeing. And if you know a specific person, right now, whose face has flashed into your mind more than once during this word, share this with them before you sleep. Do not draft a paragraph. Just send it. Their crossing is tied to yours in ways you do not need to understand tonight, and your obedience to send it will be part of how their door opens. And subscribe to this channel if you have not yet, because the next word that comes through here is going to build on this one. And if you do not stay connected, you will have to look for the pieces later that could have been delivered to you naturally. This channel is for the ones who cannot afford to miss what God is saying in this specific season. Turn the bell on. Let heaven find you next time without needing you to search. Now, before I begin the final prayer, one last thing must be exposed, because I told you at the beginning that I would name the one who thought they defeated you, and I named a spirit, and that was the first naming. But there is a second naming, and this one is closer to home, and I have been holding it for the right moment. The second one who thought they defeated you was, at times, you. Not because you were your own enemy in the ultimate sense, but because there were moments when you agreed with the report against yourself, and your agreement gave the report more legs than the report deserved. You spoke over yourself things that were not the verdict of heaven. You wrote yourself off in your journal. You dismissed yourself in the mirror. You quietly counted yourself out of rooms you were qualified for. I am not saying that to shame you. I am saying it to free you. Because if you did not know that your own agreement was part of the strength of the report, you will not know to withdraw your agreement in the next season, and the report will keep drawing strength from you without your permission. Withdraw your agreement tonight. Take it back. You do not owe your interior any more concessions to a story that heaven is rewriting. When the old thoughts come back, and they will come back, do not fight them like they are the truth. Simply notice them and say, quietly, I no longer agree with that, and move on. That short sentence is a legal action in the spirit. It does more than long arguments would do. And here is why this second naming matters. On the other side of this crossing, one of the greatest kindnesses you can extend to yourself is the kindness of no longer being your own accuser. You have been hard on yourself for a very long time. Some of that hardness was framed as humility, or as being real, or as being self-aware. Some of it was not humility at all. It was inherited harshness that you absorbed from voices that were never meant to shape your inner narrator. In the next season, the inner narrator gets a new voice, softer, truer, more accurate. And you will notice, over time, that your interior begins to sound less like the harshest people from your past, and more like a father who is proud of you. Do not distrust that new tone when it arrives. It is not delusion, it is restoration. The tone you had before was the distortion. What is coming is the original. And now, for the last piece before we pray, there has been an angel assigned to your case that you have not been fully aware of. I am not going to speculate about identity, or name, or hierarchy, because I am not going to go where I have not been given clarity. But I can tell you that there has been a specific messenger assigned to your case, and that messenger has been holding certain things in place while you were being formed. The reason certain disasters that should have happened never happened is not because you were lucky. The reason certain rooms opened at the exact right moment is not because you had good timing. The reason certain accidents were near misses is not because life is random. Something has been holding the line while you were doing the interior work. And tonight, the messenger is being given fresh instructions. Do not pray to the messenger, pray to the Father. But live with the awareness that you have never been walking these thresholds alone in the natural, even when the natural people around you were not showing up. The unseen has been more populated with allies than you have known. And in the next season, you will occasionally sense the movement of that assistance in small ways. A traffic pattern that opens right before you need it. A person you were going to call who calls you first. A memory that surfaces at exactly the right moment to help you make a decision. Do not treat those as trivia. They are signatures. Read them and be grateful and keep walking. Now, chosen one, we are almost at the sealing prayer. But before I pray this over you, one more thing must be settled. I want you to think of one specific person, right now, who prayed for you at some point in your life and never got to see the answer to their prayer. Maybe a grandmother, maybe a Sunday school teacher, maybe a friend from a season that ended, maybe a parent who has passed, maybe a stranger who prayed over you once in a hallway. Whoever they are, I want you to know that the prayer they prayed did not die when they left. Heaven filed it. And parts of your current season are being funded by prayers you did not pray, from people you may have forgotten, that are being cashed in on your behalf right now. That is not a small thing. That is one of the deepest mysteries of the kingdom. Prayers outlast the ones who pray them. Someone in your past sowed intercession into your future, and you are walking into their harvest. Honor them internally as you cross. Thank God for their obedience. Ask God to let their prayers keep bearing fruit through your life for years to come. That kind of gratitude, quietly held, is one of the highest forms of alignment a chosen one can carry. And if you can, in the coming weeks, ask the Holy Spirit to show you who you should now be praying for, whose harvest you may not live to see. Pass the pattern forward. Sow the same kind of hidden intercession into someone else's future. That is the multiplication of the kingdom. And it is one of the most beautiful assignments a matured chosen one can accept. Now let me pause and speak one more soft word into the tender place, because I sense this word has been holding a lot of weight for a long time. And before we go into the prayer, I want the atmosphere to soften once more. Chosen one, you are not going to miss it. Take a breath around that sentence. You are not going to miss it. The idea that has been running underneath your fears, that you are somehow going to miss what God has for you because of a wrong turn, a wrong word, a wrong day, a wrong choice, is not true. He is not the kind of father who lets his chosen ones miss it because of a small imperfection. He is the kind of father who redirects, who reroutes, who reweaves. If a step was wrong, he is already weaving the correction into the fabric of the next steps. You are not going to miss it. Rest. That was the second reassurance, and it has been earned by everything that came before it. I told you at the beginning I would only use these reassurances twice, and each time contextually different. That was the second. The first was that you are not too late. The second is that you are not going to miss it. Together, they form a floor under your interior that the enemy cannot pull out from under you. Stand on that floor. It will hold. Now, before I pray this over you, one more layer must open, because we are approaching the 12 to 15% boundary of the closing prayer, and I want to be responsible with the pacing. There has been a specific set of tears you have cried in secret that no human being witnessed. Those tears were not wasted. They were collected, and they are being poured out in the next season as seed. Every hidden tear becomes a public harvest when God is the one holding the ledger. Do not be embarrassed by the tears you have cried alone. They were the most valuable currency you offered heaven in the last season, and heaven does not devalue what heaven collects. You will begin to see the yield of those tears in unexpected ways. In compassion that flows through you towards strangers, in wisdom that surfaces when you did not study for the moment, in peace that stays when logic says peace should have left, in a specific favor that shows up in rooms you did not expect favor in. That yield is the tear harvest, and it is a harvest that only the ones who cried alone ever fully understand. Everyone else will assume you got lucky. You did not get lucky. You paid in secret, and heaven paid you back in public. One final layer, and then the prayer. There is a moment coming, and it is closer than you think, when you will be sitting somewhere ordinary, and something ordinary will happen, and it will hit you all at once, that God kept every promise he ever whispered to you in the dark. Not most of them, every one. And in that moment, you will not have words. You will just sit with it, and the tears that come will not be the tears of the last season. They will be tears of a different kind. They will be tears of a chosen one who realizes, finally, that they were never abandoned, that they were never overlooked, that every silent hour was accounted for, that every hidden step was witnessed, that every faithful choice mattered, that the God they thought was far was closer than their own breath the whole time. I want you to receive that in advance. Do not wait for the moment to receive it. Believe it now. And when the moment comes, it will confirm what your spirit already knew. And here is where I need to slow the pace deliberately, because before we approach the ceiling, there is one more revelation I did not fully open, and if I close without opening it, you will feel later that a piece was missing. There is a specific thing you have been asking God to remove from your life, and He has not removed it. Not because He did not hear you, but because that specific thing is the last piece of the training curriculum that is producing something in you He cannot produce any other way. If He removed it now, He would be undoing weeks of formation in the last mile, and you would not thank Him for the removal later, because the removal would leave you unfinished in a room that required you to be finished. Do not ask Him to remove it again this week. Ask Him instead to show you what it is producing. Ask Him to help you cooperate with the finishing rather than resist it, because that specific pressure is going to lift on its own timeline, and when it lifts, you will find that you no longer need it removed, because you will have moved into a version of yourself that can carry it without being crushed by it. And that is a better outcome than removal. Removal would have given you relief. What you are getting instead is capacity. Capacity is more valuable than relief, because capacity travels with you into every future assignment, while relief only serves the current moment. Now, hear this carefully. There is a specific person in your life who is going to test the strength of your new alignment, and I want to prepare you now. They are not necessarily an enemy. They are a mirror. They are going to reflect back to you, in the next few weeks, the old version of you, and they will do it without knowing they are doing it. Their words will replay the old labels. Their tone will echo the old dismissal. Their eyes will hold the old expectation. And in that moment, you will have a choice. You can either slide back into the old identity to make the interaction easier for them, or you can stay in the new alignment, even at the cost of the interaction becoming awkward. Choose the awkward interaction, every time, because the awkwardness is not conflict. The awkwardness is calibration. The relationships that adjust to your new alignment will become deeper on the other side. The relationships that cannot adjust will drift. And the drifting is not your failure. It is the natural consequence of you no longer being able to be pulled backward into a former self. Let the drifting happen where it needs to happen. Do not force the ones who cannot come to come. And listen, this is where it deepens once more. The chosen one that you are becoming is not going to be an amplified version of the chosen one you were. It is going to be a different composition entirely, not different in essence, different in expression. The gifts will be the same, but they will operate through a more mature vessel. The heart will be the same, but it will beat with steadier rhythm. The voice will be the same, but it will carry weight it did not carry before. Do not compare the new composition to the old one. It will not translate cleanly. Just receive who you are becoming, and let the becoming continue. There is a specific chosen one listening who has been afraid that if they change too much, they will lose the people who loved the old version. I want to speak to that fear. The people who truly loved you for what was always underneath the surface, not for the surface itself. The surface may change, the underneath will not. The ones who truly saw you will still recognize you when the surface adjusts. The ones who only ever saw the surface may not. And if they do not, that reveals the depth of the seeing, not the truth of the essence. You are not obligated to remain unchanged in order to be loved. Real love does not require your stagnation as its condition. Stay with me, because what comes next is another piece the enemy hoped you would miss. There is a specific pattern that has repeated in your life at roughly the same age, or the same season, or the same anniversary. You may not have noticed it consciously, but your body has noticed it. Every few years, at roughly the same time, something disruptive has happened. That is not coincidence. That is what the Bible would call a generational pattern, or an appointed cycle of resistance. And tonight, that cycle is being broken. The next occurrence of that season is not going to carry what the previous ones carried. The pattern is being interrupted. And when the season arrives and does not bring what you were bracing for, you will realize that this word was the moment the interruption began. Do not brace next time. Approach it with openness. The pattern that shaped your expectation is being unmade in the unseen. And if you approach the season with old expectation, you will fulfill the expectation rather than the new reality. Approach with fresh eyes. Approach with new posture. Let the season find you standing differently than you have ever stood in that time of year. The result will surprise you. And here is a final piece of counsel before we go into the sealing. In the coming weeks, when things begin to shift, and they will begin to shift, do not tell everyone, not because there is shame in the shift, because there is stewardship in the timing. There are certain things that heaven does that are meant to remain private for a season, because their private stage is where they are strengthened. If you announce them too early, you invite commentary that will not serve them. Let them grow underground for a while before they break the surface, and when they break the surface, tell only the ones who prayed with you in the underground. Not everyone earned the story. Some earned only the ending, and that is not stinginess. That is discernment. Steward the story. Give it in portions to the ones whose portion has been proven, and to the ones who only observed from a distance. Give them the fruit, and let them enjoy the fruit, without needing the full narrative of how the tree was grown. Now, chosen one, before I pray, take one last breath. Let the day fall off. Let the week fall off. Let the year fall off. Let every conversation you have been rehearsing fall off. Let every explanation you have been drafting fall off. Let every apology you have been owed fall off. Let every apology you have been withholding fall off. Let every worry about tomorrow fall off, just for the next several minutes. You can pick up what you actually need to pick up on the other side of the prayer. But most of what you have been carrying is not going to make the crossing with you, and this is the moment where the release becomes real. Before we approach the sealing, one more section has to be opened, and this one is different from what came before, because it does not deal with what has been done to you. It deals with what has been forming in you. There is a specific gift, or capacity, or knowing, that has been developing in the underground of your interior for the past several years, and you have not been able to name it. Sometimes it shows up as an unexplainable understanding of a situation you were not part of. Sometimes it shows up as a warning in your body about a person you have not yet met but are about to be introduced to. Sometimes it shows up as a peculiar accuracy in your intuition that goes beyond common sense. That is not something you invented. That is something heaven has been depositing in you, quietly, without ceremony, without announcement, so that when the moment arrived to use it, you would not have had time to grow proud of it. Heaven often gives its greatest tools without a ceremony. The chosen ones who receive fanfare with their gifts almost always struggle with the gifts later, because the fanfare attaches to their identity and competes with the God who gave the gift. But the chosen ones who receive their gifts quietly, in the underground, without applause, without confirmation for years, they are the ones who steward the gifts cleanly. And you have been one of the quiet receivers. That is not an accident. That is a curation. The absence of applause was the container that let the gift be planted deeply enough to survive. Now, listen carefully, because the gift is going to begin to surface publicly in the next season. It is not going to shout, it is going to hum. People are going to begin to comment on something specific about you that they cannot quite name. They will say things like, "There is something about you I cannot put my finger on." They will say things like, "When you walked into that room, something shifted, and I did not know why." They will say things like, "When you prayed for me, something moved that no one else has been able to move." Those observations are not flattery, they are recognition. Do not brush them off. Do not deflect them with false humility. Receive them quietly, and give the glory internally to the God who deposited what they are sensing. That is the correct posture for the surfacing. Do not weaponize the gift either. There will be a temptation, when a gift becomes visible, to use it in moments the Spirit did not authorize, especially in moments where you feel unseen, or unheard, or dismissed. Do not. The gift is not a tool of self-defense. The gift is an instrument of assignment. Use it when heaven says use it. Rest when heaven says rest. And in the rest, do not feel less anointed than in the use. Some of the most anointed moments of your life will be the ones nobody witnessed, in the quiet mornings, when you did not do anything remarkable, but simply stayed in the room with the Lord. There is something I have not said yet, and it changes everything. So stay with me for this next piece. The one who thought they defeated you also did not know that they were part of a larger contest. They believed the contest was between them and you. It was not. The contest was between two spiritual kingdoms, and both of you were pieces on a larger board than either of you understood. That does not excuse what they did. It does not soften the wound, but it does relocate the conflict from a personal wound to a spiritual assignment. When you see the conflict correctly, the sting reduces, because personal wounds burn with a bitterness that spiritual assignments do not carry. Spiritual assignments burn with weight, but not with the acid of personal grievance. Reframe the wound tonight. What happened to you was not only about you and them. It was about the larger territory heaven has been reclaiming through your survival. Your survival has already shifted spiritual real estate that you have not been shown yet. Rooms have been reclaimed for the kingdom because you did not quit. Assignments have been transferred to your account because you kept your integrity when it would have been reasonable to lose it. Lineages have been rerouted because you stayed. You do not see the map yet. You will one day. And when you see it, the years that felt wasted will read differently in retrospect. I want to give you one more image before we approach the prayer. Imagine a chessboard where a piece has been in the same corner for many moves, apparently unused. Everyone watching the board would assume the piece is forgotten, or reserved, or simply positioned in a bad spot. But the master player put that piece exactly there, because at the critical moment, that piece will move in a way that changes the whole game. And when it moves, everyone who was watching will understand, in an instant, that the piece was never forgotten. It was set, it was placed, it was prepared. You have been that piece, and the move is close. Do not confuse stillness with abandonment. Do not confuse quiet with irrelevance. The master player does not lose track of pieces on his own board. He is not distracted. He is not overwhelmed. He is not managing too many things to remember you. He placed you exactly where you are, and he has been waiting for the exact configuration of the board that will make your move devastating to the opposition. That configuration is nearly complete. Hear this carefully. In the coming weeks, when the move begins, do not question the timing. You will be tempted to think it is either too soon or too late. It will be neither. It will be precise, and you will only be able to see the precision in retrospect. In the moment, it will feel simply like the next step. But when you look back, you will realize the step was placed with surgical accuracy, and the accuracy will testify to a plan you did not draft. Trust that plan, even when it does not explain itself. Now, let me tell you one more thing about the person who thought they defeated you, because I do not want to leave the story unfinished. In the next season, there is going to be an unexpected encounter. It may not be face-to-face. It may be through news that reaches you. It may be through a mutual acquaintance. It may be through a moment where you discover something they said about you that you were not supposed to hear. And in that moment, you are going to feel a range of things. Anger may come, sadness may come, vindication may come, and underneath all of them, something quieter will come, and I want you to listen for that quieter thing, because it is the mature response. The quieter thing will be a strange, unexpected compassion, not for what they did, for who they are becoming, or not becoming, without the mercy you have been receiving. And in that moment, you will understand that what heaven has poured into you is not something they have access to unless they turn. And you will pray for them, briefly, not because you owe them, but because the mercy in you overflows without permission. That is the mark of a chosen one who has crossed the threshold. Their interior no longer performs bitterness, even when the situation would justify it. The performance has ended. The peace has become authentic. That does not mean reconciliation. It does not mean access. It does not mean you owe them a conversation. It means only that the war inside you has ended, and the ending of the war inside you is what makes the crossing complete. You do not have to feel warm toward them. You only have to be free of them. Free is different from friendly. Free means their existence no longer defines your weather. Free means their opinion no longer sets your ceiling. Free means their memory no longer wakes you at 3 in the morning. Free means the file is closed on your side, even if it never closes on theirs. Now, before I pray this over you, one more piece must be surfaced, because I promised a specific unveiling at the beginning of this word, and I have delivered pieces of it throughout. But the final piece must be said plainly. The reason this hour was arranged for you is because heaven decided that the report against your life should not have another day, not another week, not another month, this hour. And the reason the hour was framed as a countdown is because in the unseen, the countdown was a countdown to the ruling, not to your defeat. The enemy read the countdown as your ending. Heaven wrote the countdown as his eviction from your future. You have been living inside a countdown you misinterpreted. Tonight, the interpretation is corrected. And here is why the countdown feels so intense. Because heaven does not schedule countdowns for trivial matters. Countdowns are reserved for turning points. What is turning tonight is not just a chapter, it is a whole book. The volume of your life that has been titled Under Pressure is closing. The next volume is being opened. And the title of the next volume you will discover slowly, chapter by chapter. But I can tell you the tone. The tone will be steadier. The tone will be warmer. The tone will be lighter in weight, but greater in substance. The tone will be the tone of a chosen one who has crossed and knows they have crossed and no longer wonders about it. If any of this word has been landing in you specifically, before we pray, do this last thing. Whisper the words, "I agree," once, out loud, wherever you are. That is your legal signature in the spirit on the crossing. You do not have to shout it. You do not have to perform it. Just whisper it, so that your interior and your mouth are in alignment when the sealing begins. Because when the sealing begins, alignment is what allows the sealing to hold. Without alignment, the sealing seals only what you agreed to. With alignment, the sealing seals everything the Father has planned. Agree fully. Let nothing be excluded. And now, chosen one final movement before the prayer. I want you to place, in your mind, the specific person you were carrying in intercession, the specific weight you named, the specific promise you almost released, the specific location question, the specific relationship, the specific hope. Gather them all into one place in your interior. Hold them lightly. Do not squeeze. Do not analyze. Just hold. And when the prayer begins, know that each of them is being addressed, even the ones I do not name specifically. Because when the anointing moves, it moves according to the interior alignment of the receiver, not according to the words of the one praying. So your holding matters. Hold everything you carried in with you. And still, before the sealing, one more layer must be exposed, because the depth of what heaven has arranged tonight cannot be closed prematurely. There is a specific area of your life that you have quietly stopped praying about, not because you gave up on God, but because you got tired of the emotional cost of hoping. Every time you brought that specific area back into prayer, you felt the ache resharpen, and after several rounds of that, you began, quietly, to leave it off the list. You did not announce it. You did not confess it. You simply began to protect yourself by not mentioning it. I want to invite you tonight to put that area back on the list, not because prayer is a formula, because the reason it left the list was fatigue, and the fatigue is being lifted. In the coming weeks, you will find that praying about that specific area does not carry the same weight it used to. The ache will be quieter. The tears may still come, but they will not be exhausting tears. They will be releasing tears. And the ability to hold the topic in prayer without collapse is itself part of the answer beginning to arrive. When you can pray about a thing without breaking, the thing is closer than when you could not. Do not despise the small strength you feel returning. Small strength precedes big movement. And the returning of small strength is one of the most reliable early signs of a season shift. If you have been noticing, in odd moments, that something in you feels lighter than it should feel, given your circumstances, that unexplained lightness is not denial. That is grace, working ahead of the visible answer. Grace often arrives before the answer, because grace is what allows you to be present enough to receive the answer when it does come. Without grace preceding it, the answer would find you too depleted to hold it. Listen closely. because this next piece will land only in the ones who need it. There is a specific chosen one who has been silently wondering if their faith is still real. Not because they walked away, but because it stopped feeling the way it used to feel. The songs do not stir them the way they used to. The scriptures do not thrill them the way they once did. The prayers feel more like habits than encounters, and they have been afraid to tell anyone, because they think this must mean something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong with you. What you are experiencing is the maturing of your faith from experience-based to covenant-based. Experience-based faith rides on feelings. Covenant-based faith rides on truth. And covenant-based faith often feels quieter because it does not need the emotional volume that experience-based faith required. Do not mistake the quieter faith for a weaker faith. It is a stronger faith. It is the faith that will carry you through the seasons where feelings do not confirm anything, and truth has to be the only thing you stand on. Many chosen ones abandon their faith in that transition because they think the loss of feeling is the loss of God. It is not. It is the transition from the milk to the meat. Welcome the meat. It will feel less sweet at first, but it will build strength in you that milk could never build. Now let me open one more thing, and this one is delicate. There is a chosen one listening who has been suppressing a very specific desire because they were told, at some point in their spiritual formation, that the desire itself was ungodly, not a sinful action. The desire. And they have been at war with themselves over the presence of that desire ever since. I want to draw a careful line for you tonight. Not every desire is holy, but not every desire is unholy either. And the difference between the two is not the volume of the desire. It is the direction of the desire when it is submitted to the Lord. Submitted desire becomes usable material. Unsubmitted desire becomes leverage against you. So the invitation is not to kill the desire without examining it, and not to indulge the desire without submitting it. The invitation is to bring the desire, unedited, into the presence of the Father and let Him tell you what it is. If it is meant to be transformed, He will show you. If it is meant to be redirected, He will show you. If it is meant to be honored, He will show you. But suppression without examination is not obedience. It is fear wearing a religious costume. Take the desire out of the closet where you have hidden it and lay it in front of the Lord and let Him do what only He can do with it. That is a piece of freedom I did not want to leave unsaid tonight, because too many chosen ones live at war with themselves in ways that heaven never intended. Heaven is not embarrassed by your interior. Heaven is your closest witness. Bring it all. Now, before the sealing, one final piece. I want to name something you may have felt during this word, but not articulated. You have felt, at moments, like someone knew you personally. Like a specific detail you had not shared with anyone had been named. Like a memory you had buried had been touched. That is not because I know you, it is because the Spirit knows you, and the Spirit was moving through this word, and the Spirit is not limited by the general nature of my sentences. The Spirit customizes anointed content in real time to the exact soul receiving it. What sounded general to your ear was specific in the delivery, because the Spirit adjusted the frequency to your interior. That is one of the mercies of how this works. You do not need a personal prophecy to have a personal encounter. The general word, delivered under anointing, becomes personal on impact, and what you have experienced tonight, if you have been listening with an open heart, is not a general word that happened to be somewhat relevant. It is a personal encounter that was delivered through a general channel. Own it. Do not let the enemy come later and suggest that it was just a coincidence or just a nice video. It was a moment. Mark it as a moment. Write down the date. Note what you heard. Remember what you felt. Because in the coming weeks, when the enemy tries to erase this word from your memory, you will need the marker to remember by. And here is the final layer before the sealing, because I want to close the loops I opened at the start. I told you I would name who thought they defeated you, and I named the spirit of dismissal, and I named the second face, which was, at times, your own voice in agreement with the report. But there is a third layer to that naming, and this one I saved for last, because it required all the previous revelations to be in place before it could be received cleanly. The third one who thought they defeated you was time itself. Time, in the way you had been reading it, had become an accuser. It was telling you that too many years had passed. It was showing you the calendar and using the calendar as evidence. It was pointing to the birthdays that came and went without the promise arriving, and it was suggesting that the accumulation of unanswered years was proof that the answer would not come. Time had become the loudest voice in your interior, and you did not realize it, because time does not announce itself as a voice. It just presses. Tonight, the pressing stops, and time is being repositioned in your interior from an accuser to a servant. Because time does not decide when the promise arrives. God decides. And when God decides, time obeys, no matter how many years have already passed. There are chosen ones in Scripture who received in a single moment what time had held back for decades. There are stories where a single night reversed what an entire lifetime had accumulated against them. Do not measure your future by the shape of your past. The past has been telling you a story that the future is about to contradict. The countdown of 1 hour, which I mentioned at the very beginning, is not the number of hours left in your opportunity. It is the number of hours until the interior shift that repositions time inside you. When the shift happens, you will stop feeling like time is against you, and you will start feeling like time is with you. And that feeling is not a mood. It is a spiritual reality that will alter how you move, how you decide, how you rest, how you believe. Time will feel like a friend. It has not felt like a friend in a long time. It will now. That is the completion of the unveiling I promised at the start. The one who thought they defeated you was a spirit, a voice, and a distorted relationship with time. All three are being addressed in this hour. All three are losing their grip. And what comes after the loss of their grip is a chosen one who moves through the world with a peace that does not need constant reassurance, a strength that does not need constant applause, and a hope that does not need constant confirmation. That is the version of you who is walking out of this word. Now, chosen one, listen to me carefully, because we are at the ceiling, and I need your interior to be quiet. Take one more breath, and let everything else in your day fall to the floor for the next few minutes. Let the phone rest. Let the noise rest. Let the to-do list rest. This is your moment, and I am not going to rush it. I am going to pray this over you, the way a watchman prays over a threshold, and even as I pray, more will be loosed than I say out loud, because the Spirit prays what my mouth cannot fully form. Father, in the name of Jesus, I stand with the one who is receiving this word right now, and I stand with them at the threshold you have brought them to. I thank you that you have not been asleep during their waiting. I thank you that you have not been distant during their silence. I thank you that every hour that felt wasted was accounted for in your ledger, and every tear that fell in secret was gathered in your bottle, and every prayer that felt unanswered was being stored for this exact hour. Father, I ask you right now to release your ruling over the case that has been running in the unseen against this chosen one. Let the accuser be silenced. Let the network of agreements made against their life be dismantled at the root. Let every canopy over their calling be torn. Let every counterfeit assignment be exposed. Let every mislabel be peeled off. Let every ghost voice of an older self lose its microphone. Let every whisper of dismissal be evicted from the atmosphere around them, and let the name you have been calling them the whole time settle finally into their interior. Even as I seal this, one more thing is being loosed. I loose the specific answer to the specific prayer they almost released. I loose the specific person whose name they have been carrying in intercession. I loose the specific door that was scheduled for this hour. I loose the specific network of chosen ones who are being aligned with them for the next season. Let them find each other quickly. Let them recognize each other without needing long explanations. Let the covering that fits the new season settle over them cleanly. Father, I ask you to guard them against the counterfeit at this threshold. Sharpen the inner check. Make the still small voice unmistakable. Let discernment be more reliable to them than desire. Let their spirit override their flesh at every fork, and where they must release someone in order to cross, give them the grace to bless without dragging, to close without cursing, to move without carrying. I speak peace over the specific weight they just named. Let it lift now. Let it lift cleanly. Let it lift without leaving a residue. And where the weight has been so heavy for so long that its lifting will feel strange, let them not panic at the strangeness. Let them recognize the lightness as answered prayer, not as danger. I speak recompense over every year the locusts ate. I speak restoration over the areas that felt permanently damaged. I speak reversal over the verdicts that were spoken by people who did not have the authority to speak them. I speak alignment over the timing of their next steps. I speak clarity over the confusion that has clouded their eyes. I speak stamina over the fatigue that has weighed their body. I speak provision over the accounts they have been trying to protect. I speak wisdom over the decisions that are coming faster than they expected. I speak favor over the rooms that used to reject them. I speak honor over the seats that used to overlook them. I speak vindication over the whispers that used to define them. And Father, for the one who thought they defeated this chosen one, I do not pray a curse. I pray your mercy. I pray that your mercy would arrest them the way it arrested Saul on the road, so that whatever they intended for harm is intercepted by grace, and whatever needs to be settled between them and this chosen one is settled by your hand and not by human striving. I seal this chosen one tonight, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. I seal their crossing. I seal their next season. I seal their identity. I seal their assignments. I seal their intercession. I seal their household. I seal their body. I seal their mind. I seal their sleep. I seal their morning. I seal their voice. I seal the fruit that is about to come out of a tree that many people thought was dead. And even in this final breath of prayer, one last thing is being loosed. A specific joy that has been withheld from you is being released. Not the loud joy that performs for a room. The steady joy that stays when the room is empty. That joy is your portion. Receive it. It is the marker of the crossing. When you feel it settle in the quiet places, you will know that you are not standing at the threshold anymore. You are standing on the other side. Chosen one. You are seen. You are named. You are commissioned. You are crossed over. And the one who thought they defeated you has just received God's answer. And the answer is that they did not, and they never could have, because you were never theirs to defeat. You were His to keep. In the name of Jesus, it is settled, it is sealed, it is done. Amen.